You think you're alone, but someone is already learning to love you. Not just anyhow. Not with empty words or fleeting promises, but with a sincerity that only Allah can place in a heart. It's not just an encounter, it's an answer. And if you knew how close she is, you wouldn't doubt it for a single second. There are signs. They are subtle, powerful, almost invisible to the casual eye. But if your heart is attentive, you will see them. What you are about to hear today could change the way you view love and patience.
One dash, the silence before the echo. Do you notice how everything suddenly stopped? Not abruptly, but gently, silently. As if, without warning, the voices around you had fallen away. As if the people you felt connected with yesterday had gently disappeared from the scene. No arguments, no shouting, just a distance. Inexplicable, unjustified, inevitable. You find yourself there between memories and anticipation, and your heart, however, wavers. You search for answers, but all you hear is silence. But this silence is not empty. It is full of meaning. It is what some cannot bear, but which conscious souls recognize. The silence of Allah who is preparing something. Because you see, Allah does not always speak with words. Sometimes He works with absences. He removes what was making too much noise around you, so that you can finally hear what He has been trying to tell you for a long time. Look around you. This emptiness you feel is not a punishment. It is a waiting room. And He who knows how to wait with faith in this silent room sees doors open that others have never even imagined. What you are experiencing now may not be loneliness, but an invisible purification. Allah removes what was insincere. He pushes aside what weighed you down, even if you thought it carried you. He breaks superficial ties so that you can welcome a deep connection. Not a connection that flatters your ego, a connection that heals your soul. And that's why everything becomes blurred before it becomes clear. You wake up in the morning without motivation. You pray, but your heart seems distant. You smile in front of others, but inside you feel a cold echo. You scroll, you look, you search, without really knowing what you hope to find. But you keep going, because something inside you knows that there's an after to all this. And that after could be an encounter. Not a chance encounter, a written encounter. One you can't cause nor anticipate, because it's not in your hands, it's in His decree. But He's leading you there, and what you're experiencing now is a sacred preparation. He wants you to be empty of what's toxic, so that you're full of what's pure. He wants you to be tired of what's superficial, so that you'll immediately recognize what's sincere. And sometimes this preparation feels like abandonment. But it's not abandoning people. It's Allah's call to return to Him without witnesses, without distractions, without applause. You know, many ask for a beautiful relationship, but few accept the isolation it takes to deserve it. Few can endure the cleansing the heart must undergo before being able to love properly. So perhaps you, right now, are in that suspended moment. That moment where we see nothing, but where everything is aligning. That moment where Allah takes away to better give. But be careful. Just because you see nothing doesn't mean nothing is happening. Just because it's slow doesn't mean it's not powerful. Just because you don't understand now doesn't mean you'll never understand. The calm you feel isn't an absence. It's a prelude, a strange peace resting on your heart, as if someone invisible were saying, prepare yourself. What you're waiting for is coming, but not in the form you imagined, not through the people you know,
not with the criteria your ego wanted, but with what your soul has always known it deserved. So, listen carefully to this silence. Perhaps it's there, in this peace without reason, that the most beautiful of answers begins. 2. When two destinies align, once upon a time, two souls, not two people, two souls, two breaths created miles apart, years apart, two hearts that were polar opposites, culture, rhythm, wounds, history. One grew up in noise, the other in silence. One believed strongly but doubted himself. The other doubted strongly, but believed nonetheless. They lived, forgotten of each other, without even knowing that one day they would search for each other without words. And yet, every twist and turn of their lives, every person who broke them, every prayer said in solitude, brought them closer together, without them knowing it, without them suspecting it. When he cried in his car, thinking that no one would ever understand his heart, she, on the other side of the world, was saying almost at the same time a Ya Rab, filled with fatigue. And without knowing it, she was opening a door for two. When she decided to move away from an empty love, to regain her dignity, he was breaking away from his habits without light, to learn to love Allah before loving a woman. They didn't know they were moving towards each other, but Allah knew. He was guiding their steps separately so that one day they could walk side by side without losing each other. And that day came, not in a movie, not in a dream, in a banal moment, almost too simple to be a beginning, a harmless conversation, an unexpected situation, an unexplained feeling. I know you, not your face, not your past, but your soul, because it spoke the same language as yours, that of sincerity. And you recognized something in her gaze, in her modesty, in her way of not wanting to impress. You recognized peace, the peace you were looking for in so many wrong directions, and suddenly things made sense. The failures of before, the violent separations, the pain you didn't understand, they were there to redirect you, to cleanse you, so that you would be empty enough to welcome what you were truly waiting for. And this person, this soul, didn't arrive by chance. She arrived when you stopped running, when you began to return to Allah unconditionally. It wasn't a coincidence. It was an alignment, divine timing, a planned mercy. But it wasn't perfect. Nothing is ever perfect here below. There were doubts, clumsiness, differences, but strangely, it wasn't scary. Because even in the unknown, you felt it was right. Not easy, but right. Not smooth, but deep. And that's when you understood. This bond wasn't there to entertain you, but to elevate you. You had met someone who didn't look at your appearance, your status, or your past mistakes. Someone who looked where others looked away. Your effort, your growth, your desire to do well. And that look is a rahmah, not the one you demand. The one Allah gives you when He sees you're ready. So you might be wondering right now, as you watch this video, does this person really exist? Is there a heart moving towards me right now without me knowing it? And if so, when, how, where? But it's not up to you to answer that. It's not up to you to force what's already written. Your only role is to keep moving forward. Because the more you return to Allah, the closer you get to them, to Him, to that connection. And perhaps, while you listen to these words, that soul destined for you is also preparing themselves, or getting back on their feet, or praying for someone, without knowing it's you. What if it were now, that heaven was aligning your paths? 3. Why did Allah make you wait? Have you ever wondered why? Why you? Why are you always here, alone, while your heart is filled with du'as that no one seems to hear?
Why do others move forward, love each other, find each other, and you remain waiting? You look around you and you smile, yes. You pretend to be strong, but in the evening, when everything fades away, there remains this emptiness, an emptiness that makes no sound but weighs heavily. You've already said this to Allah, haven't you? Ya Rab, I did everything I could. I distanced myself from what hurt me. I chose modesty, patience, faith, and yet I'm still alone. And sometimes this loneliness, it doesn't just hurt. It makes you doubt. You wonder if you truly deserve to be loved. You look at your reflection, your past, your mistakes, and you think that maybe love wasn't meant for you. But let me tell you a truth that no one has told you until now. Allah has never forgotten you. He protected you. And sometimes protection feels like a rejection. But in reality, it was a postponement. A not yet, not a never. You see, there are things you can only receive after healing. And there are hearts you can only welcome after emptying yourself of everything else. Perhaps you would have met this person too soon, at a time when your heart was still in pieces. And with them, you would have destroyed what was meant to build you up. So Allah kept you. He closed doors. He took things from your hands. He shattered plans, not to humiliate you, but to elevate you. Because the love He has in store for you cannot be born in a heart filled with fear, pride, or attachment to bad things. It is born in a heart that has learned to love Him first. And maybe you still needed that. And she too, for her part. Maybe she prayed, cried, fell, and got back up. Maybe she was going through the same nights as you without knowing that her ordeal was your mirror, without knowing that Allah was shaping you for each other. You think waiting is a waste of time. But no, it's a jewel box. That's where the sorting happens, between what you want and what your soul truly needs to receive. And believe me, there is wisdom in this pain, because it taught you to pray differently, more gently, more sincerely. It broke you just enough so that you no longer ask for superficial love, but for a love that heals, that guides, that leads to Him. And this pain you still feel now is Allah working within you. It's the cleansing before the rain. It's the effort before the giving. You're not waiting in the void. You're not forgotten. You're prepared. And perhaps, as you watch this video, things are already moving. Not in what you see, but in the invisible, in the qadr, into the unknown, where Allah writes to you, a moment you can't even imagine yet. So yes, you're waiting. But you're not waiting alone. You're not waiting for nothing. And if you knew what's on its way to you, 4 the subtle signs of a divine connection. It won't be spectacular. There won't be slow motion music, no Hollywood moment, no light falling from the sky at the exact moment your eyes meet. Number: when Allah sends you someone, it doesn't make a sound. It begins with something invisible, a peace. Not the peace you feel when you're running away, but the kind that anchors you, that stops you in your tracks and silently says, stay. Listen. It might be a look, yes, but not the kind that disturbs you, the kind that calms you. He or she won't say anything extraordinary, but every word will seem to have been written to hit you at just the right moment. You won't understand why, but you won't want to run away. And it won't be excitement. It will be clarity. You'll feel a fluidity, not an illusion of ease, but a kind of natural slippage, as if your two worlds, despite everything that differentiates them, were meant to fit together. There will be silences, but not awkward ones. Silences that heal, like two souls finally breathing next to a heart that understands them. And then there will be that sign that many ignore, your faith.
it won't stay at the same level. When Allah sends the right person, it's not just your heart that beats, it's your soul that awakens. You start praying on time again, not because anyone tells you to, but because you want to deserve this peace. You rediscover the desire to become better, to purify your heart, to heal your outlook, to forgive your past. You feel in their presence what you were seeking in solitude, a return to Allah, but without forcing yourself, like an inner light that begins to shine gently again. And maybe there won't even have been a major event. Maybe this person enters your life like a breeze between two storms, discreet, but impossible to ignore. Maybe it won't immediately be a love story, but a story of awakening, a presence that doesn't push you to rush things, but helps you lay the foundations. A relationship without pressure, without performance, where existing is already enough to build something pure. And you will understand that these are not coincidences. They are winks from heaven, reminders wrapped in calm, in sincerity, in respect. Silent answers to ancient prayers that you had almost forgotten, but that Allah, He, had never erased. And if you look closely, these signs never come alone. They are followed by a strange ease. Obstacles subside. Intentions become pure. Important discussions become simple. You no longer need to play. You no longer need to hide. Because in front of you, there is no longer a challenge to conquer. There is a mirror. A living reminder that your wait was not in vain. That your heart was not too fragile. That it just needed someone who knew how to hold it gently. But to see these signs, you need calm. You need silence within. Because if your heart is still full of hurt, you risk missing the point. So listen carefully, not with your ears, but with what Allah has placed deep within you to recognize what is true. And perhaps right now, one of these signs is already here. Is this really the right person? You're asking yourself that question, aren't you? Again and again. What if I'm wrong? Again. What if this person is just another mirage in my desert of waiting? What if this bond binds me to someone destiny never really intended for me? But now, stop for a moment. Ask yourself the right questions. Not the questions of fear, the questions of truth. Is this person helping you move forward or pushing you backward in what you were already working to repair? Are you praying more? Or are you forgetting yourself more? Are you loving yourself more? Or are you hiding more? Because the real question isn't, do I love them? It's, does this person help me love Allah more? Read your emotions carefully. You don't need a relationship that makes your heart beat faster. You need a connection that lifts your soul. So consider, when you talk to this person, do you come away empty or full? When you doubt, do they reassure you with words that lead you back to Allah? Or do they mislead you with human promises? When you feel weak, do they humiliate you? Or do they lift you up in your vulnerability? The answers aren't in their romantic gestures. They're in how you feel after you hang up. Do you feel close to the good? Or empty, distant, guilty? Sometimes, it's not the lie that destroys a relationship. It's forgetting Allah's presence in the bond. You may be attracted, touched, moved. But be careful. It's not always a sign. Sometimes, it's a test. So ask yourself these questions, over and over again. Does he or she know your soul, or only your image? Does he or she see your potential, or only your appearance? Do you feel like this relationship is distancing you from yourself, or bringing you back to your essence? And above all, does this bond teach you gratitude, or does it make you secretly beg for someone to love you better? Because the right connection doesn't wear out your heart. It soothes it. The right connection doesn't force you to change in order to be accepted. It inspires you to evolve without pressure, without fear. And remember, Allah will never unite you with someone who tears you away from Him. Even if it's sweet, even if it seems right, what He unites is what brings you closer, what strengthens your light, even in the midst of storms. So now, ask yourself the real question. Does this connection remind you of Allah? Or does it make you forget His direction?
6. Is this really the right person? You're asking yourself that question, aren't you? Again and again.
What if I'm wrong? Again? What if this person is just another mirage in my desert of waiting? What if this bond binds me to someone destiny never really intended for me? But now, stop for a moment. Ask yourself the right questions. Not the questions of fear, the questions of truth. Is this person helping you move forward or pushing you backward in what you were already working to repair? Are you praying more, or are you forgetting yourself more? Are you loving yourself more, or are you hiding more? Because the real question isn't, do I love them? It's, does this person help me love Allah more? Read your emotions carefully. You don't need a relationship that makes your heart beat faster. You need a connection that lifts your soul. So consider, when you talk to this person, do you come away empty or full? When you doubt, do they reassure you with the words that lead you back to Allah? Or do they mislead you with human promises? When you feel weak, do they humiliate you? Or do they lift you up in your vulnerability? The answers aren't in their romantic gestures. They're in how you feel after you hang up. Do you feel close to the good, or empty, distant, guilty? Sometimes it's not the lie that destroys a relationship. It's forgetting Allah's presence in the bond. You may be attracted, touched, moved. But be careful. It's not always a sign. Sometimes it's a test. So ask yourself these questions over and over again. Does he or she know your soul or only your image? Does he or she see your potential or only your appearance? Do you feel like this relationship is distancing you from yourself or bringing you back to your essence? And above all, does this bond teach you gratitude, or does it make you secretly beg for someone to love you better? Because the right connection doesn't wear out your heart, it soothes it. The right connection doesn't force you to change in order to be accepted. It inspires you to evolve without pressure, without fear. And remember, Allah will never unite you with someone who tears you away from Him. Even if it's sweet, even if it seems right, what He unites is what brings you closer, what strengthens your light, even in the midst of storms. So now, ask yourself the real question. Does this connection remind you of Allah? Or does it make you forget His direction? If your heart skipped a beat during this video, it's no coincidence. Perhaps it's Allah sending you a gentle but firm reminder. What you're waiting for exists, but first, you must become ready to receive it. Don't let this message fade away with the end of this video. Reflect, pray, observe, act, and above all, share this reminder with someone who's also waiting for an answer. Because sometimes, Allah reaches out to you to touch another heart. Subscribe, leave a comment, tell us how you feel, and be ready for what the next video will reveal to you. Perhaps it will be the sign you've been waiting for all along.